and good evening, everyone. Live here from Beef O'Brady's here in beautiful Granger, Indiana. This is the Coach's Box on the Regional Radio Sports Network and on 91.1 FM The Globe, WGCS Goshen, and globeradio.org. We are so glad that you could join us here on this beautiful Thursday evening here. Once again, live from Beef O'Brady's here in Granger, Indiana. My name is Tanner Camp, and so glad you could join us here on the Coach's Box on 91.1 FM The Globe. As always, a huge shout out to Dante Stan for his amazing work back over at Goshen, spinning the dials and keeping us on the air. We got a good show with Paul Condry. He's hanging out over at Bethel as both the women's and men's basketball teams are in their home openers, as the women taking on Cornerstone, and then on the flip side, the men are taking on Calumet College of St. Joseph. So you can tune into him on bupilots.com for more information there. So it's Tanner Camp here again, tuning in, and we got a great guest for you tonight. It's Omar Gallo, the head coach for both the men's and women's soccer teams over at Holy Cross. A chance to talk with him as both teams are heading to the postseason tournament, and they'll be in action in the CCAC postseason tournament. We'll talk all about that and some more here after this quick timeout. But once again, Omar Gallo, our special guest here on the Coach's Box, and we've got a great conversation coming up and looking forward to chatting with him. So we'll be back after this quick 90-second timeout. When we come back, we'll chat with Omar Gallo, the head coach over at Holy Cross for men's and women's soccer. Back after this quick 90-second timeout right here on 91.1 FM The Globe and the Regional Radio Sports Network.
Investing in education-based athletics builds strong communities in a strong, successful Indiana.
That's because when we support education-based athletics, we're not only supporting Hoosier student athletes, we're championing the next generation of doctors, CEOs, and engineers, not to mention future teachers, first responders, and civil servants. I'm Brian Lewis.
And I'm Chris Kaufman. We're both assistant commissioners of the Indiana High School Athletic Association.
High school sports are the training ground for our future community leaders, impact makers, and world changers.
When we invest in student athletes, we're teaching them the importance of serving others selflessly,
leading them to become engaged, compassionate citizens who pay it forward and continue building a positive future for Indiana and beyond.
Support the next generation of Hoosier difference makers by buying a ticket to your high school's athletic events.
This is serving our community. This is strengthening our future. This is your IHSAA.
Beef O'Brady's is a locally owned, family-operated restaurant designed for food and sports, featuring appetizers, wraps, pizzas, sandwiches, salads, and wings. Beef O'Brady's also broadcasts televised sporting events. The State Road 23 Granger location has carry-out service and includes a party room and an outside patio. More information is available on their website, beefobradys.com, or by calling 574-271-1415. That's 574-271-1415. Beef O'Brady's. Good food, good sports.
Welcome back here to the Coach's Box here on 91.1 FM The Globe and on globeradio.org. However it is you're tuning in, so glad that you could join us here. Now we're going to go ahead and bring in our special guest, Omar Gallo, the head coach for the Holy Cross men's and women's soccer team. And Coach Gallo, first and foremost, thank you so much for taking some time out of a very busy schedule, going to all of that twice. So thank you so much for coming out to the show.
I appreciate you having me.
So, Coach, just throughout the season, of course, you run both programs, and for some coaches, it's hard to just be able to manage one. So just tell us a little bit about what are some of the biggest things, both advantages and to being able to run two programs. Now, luckily, you run the same style of soccer, but what are some of the advantages of running two different soccer teams?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. We run similar styles with both programs, which makes things a little bit easier. But I think what stands out for me the most is the buy-in from the players, understanding that, appreciating that, and I have to give credit where credit's due, and that's to my assistants, and most definitely Coach Duma, who yes, he's listed as an assistant, but we call each other co-head coaches because he does a tremendous job, and the players love him. But none of this is possible without Duma's involvement in both programs.
Yeah, and you mentioned that because the key thing, and I know one of our favorite parts for those who haven't tuned into any Holy Cross soccer broadcasts, especially on the women, when they do the announcement, say head coach Omar Gallo, and the females especially, or for the women, always make sure to give him the credit because he helps on our end for broadcasting, helps us get the camera pull, and just helps the day-to-day operation. So just tell us, our listeners, a little bit about how Duma, because he's in, according to what we have here, his fifth season with the program. So just tell us a little bit about how Duma ended up becoming a member on this Holy Cross soccer staff.
Yeah, well, I think, the teams love him, right? I mean, you spoke about it in the pre-games. When they do the announcements and all the girls, chant and Coach Duma, right? I mean, that's that just speaks highly of the team's culture, the respect they have for him, how much he means to their program. It's those little things like recognizing each other that can go a long way. In regard to how I came across Coach Doom, I mean, we've been very actively involved in youth club soccer here in the community, and I've had the privilege to work with him with Michigan Echo. He's done tremendous things for the youth community over the last, say, 10, 11 years since I've known him. And the minute we took over the women's program, he was the first guy that I knew I had to get on staff.
And again, as you mentioned, definitely on board with it and with the co-head coach. And now let's also talk a little bit about, Michiana Echo. At least for the 2 years that I've seen you guys, you always make sure, whether it's a specific day for Michiana Echo or even just having them come and be a ball boy or a ball girl, just tell us a little bit about how important it is for you to bring those young kids, because as you know, with any sport, whether it's soccer, whether it's basketball, whether it's American football, it's important to really kind of get them some inspiration, because as you know, college athletes are like, they really look up to them. So just tell us a little bit about what is important about bringing those Michiana Echo kids out to Holy Cross to experience the game.
Yeah, I think for a coach, it's our job to mentor and shape these young kids that come into college and allow them to grow to become young, fine men and women. And sometimes we can get so caught up in coaching and thinking it's about the game, but in reality is coaching and is teaching and developing these people to become better people in life. And building character is one of those things. And one way we find ways to build character is showing them the importance to give back to the community. And I think that's something that we're able to offer as a college. And when we're out there recruiting potential student athletes for Holy Cross College, it's a way that we can show that here's how we develop you as an individual as a whole, is by giving back into mentoring these young kids. And then there's so much great soccer going on right now in our area. You have Notre Dame, you have Bethel, Holy Cross. I mean, all these programs, within a couple mile radius have made the tournament in their respectable conferences. And these kids have the opportunity to see that and be able to utilize these college kids as mentors. So though we're helping them, these kids are actually helping us build character and remind us to stay humble and never forget where we come from.
And as we talked about with Michiana Echo, I'm also just very curious. I know for myself, when I was interested in soccer, I was part of a couple of youth leagues, and then eventually that grew to a real love for it as a goalkeeper. But I'm just curious for our listeners who, again, may not be familiar with your kind of background, just tell us a little bit about where does the relationship with you, when did Omar Gallo really develop that love for soccer?
Yeah, it's I was actually a late bloomer. I don't say this too much often, but I'm actually a massive football fan, American football fan. I'm a big 49ers fan and grew up playing American football since a young age. My uncle got me into football at a very young age, and I was definitely very passionate about it. And one day, a friend of mine named Daniel Vukovic, he called me up and said they were looking for a goalkeeper. And I think at the time I was 14 years old, and never forget, I went out there and had no idea what to do, just stood in front of the net, and next thing you know, a 60, 70-yard goal went in, and just watched the ball roll in and thought, okay, well, never going to get the call again. And sure enough, got the call next week and just continued to play and been blessed ever since to go on and play at the collegiate level and, receive academic athletic scholarship and this is my way of giving back, which is coaching.
And you mentioned because in your previous, before you were the head coach for the men's team, you were an assistant. You specifically worked with the goalkeepers. As a head coach now, because luckily you've got two absolutely great goalkeepers in Claudio Fuentealba and Taylor Primack, two, in my opinion, are the best goalkeepers in their respected for their respected sports and for the CCAC. So when it comes to coaching up for goalkeeping, what are kind of some of the big things you like to focus on? Because if you're someone like me, anything that's high, I mean, I'm not going to have anything where I get chipped over, but anything that's on the ground, that's a long way down. So is there anything specific when it comes to goalkeeping that you like to have those two keepers focus on?
Yeah, I mean, both keepers have done a tremendous job. I want to throw Isaiah Rubio in there as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, we put him in a big game this year against a top 25 Governor State team, and he ended up getting the result for us. So, we have three keepers right now, two on the men's side, one on the women's side. We have a freshman coming in next year, Peyton, who's going to from Penn High School. That's going to do a very good job for us as well. But I think the goalkeeping position is such a confident position. I mean, one day you are the hero for the team, the next day you're the villain, right? And that comes with the position that you play in. So first and foremost, things are going to happen in a game. And now when we're looking at the technicality of it, we understand there's going to be goals scored in the game. And when we're out there watching the goalkeepers, yes, technically we're looking at, their kicks, their distribution, their ability to control their box, their 50-50s, their, 1v1s. I mean, we look at all that, shot-stopping abilities. But I think for me, what I'm looking at is how do they bounce back after something's gone wrong? Because not only is that going to allow us to see what they're all about as a soccer player, as a goalkeeper, because goals are going to be scored in the game, but more importantly, like when things don't go your way in practice, in class, in life, are you going to be able to bounce back? And those are the little things that we try to tie in life and soccer together. And I think for the goalkeeper position, that's probably number one when we're looking at it in goalkeepers is how do you respond when you let a goal in? Does the confidence go downhill, or do you rise to the occasion? And I think that's what you see with Claudio. I think that's what you see with Isaiah as a young keeper, as a freshman this year, playing in a big game for us. And sure enough, that's what you see with Taylor, who was a freshman last year, an all-conference goalkeeper, right? These players have really bounced back from adversity, and using Claudio as an example. I mean, here's a guy who let in a goal probably, first 2 games of the season, wouldn't typically let that goal in, and he's been on a tear ever since. And in my opinion, he's probably top 1 or 2 goalkeepers in the conference, and that just speaks highly of his ability to bounce back.
Yeah, and, the goalkeeping position, as you had mentioned, some people think that it's just standing there and not letting things through. And of course, when it comes to penalty kicks, I know I was always taught, hey, you just pick a side and you go. It's 100 or nothing on that. So props to those goalkeepers, because I think Claudio and Taylor and Rubio, of course, I think both of them are really going to help out your team from that position. What would you say in terms of, because I know one thing that is also important is that the goalkeeper really sees the field just about better than anyone else. So how important is it for you to kind of put emphasis to them on talking? Because I think Taylor also does a prime and a great job of always letting her team know, even if a game is out of hand or the Saints are up by a lot, she's always talking to her team as if it's still tied at 0-0.
It's another quality we look for when we're recruiting is the goalkeeper. And going back to my American football days, is he or she serving as the quarterback for the team, right? Managing the team. I mean, that's your job as a goalkeeper. You see everything. Everything is in front of you. And sometimes, things are going on during the game. It can be a bit chaotic that, it may be your left back, your right back, your center back, your center mid may not be able to see what you see. And so the importance of effective communication is definitely one of the traits we look for when we're recruiting a goalkeeper. And quite frankly, I mean, I think that's where our goalkeepers have improved. Matt Carroll, former Bethel, who was a goalkeeper there, he works with our keepers. He's done a tremendous job with our keepers since he's taken over last year. I would say when we're talking about Claudio, that's been his number one improvement this year, is his effective communication, I should say, in the last, I would say, 10 games.
And one of the things that you mentioned was that you did bring in a keeper from Penn, and that is really a nice luxury here. I mean, you've got Penn High School, of course. They always put out a good team on the men's and women's side. Mishawaka Marion, I know their teams. I know, I believe at least one of them, or maybe both teams, are going to state for soccer, the state finals this upcoming weekend, which is just tremendous. Mishawaka Marion, and then you've got some other teams like in the Duneland area, like Chesterton. I know Hobart, not in the Duneland, but still a team that's really improved. So it's got to be nice for you that still within this neck of the woods, within an hour or so drive, there is so much really good talent. Because we talked about it off the air, but Chesterton is a team, if you get any player from them, they have always proven to be a state caliber type of team. So, like I said, it's got to be a nice luxury to have this much talent just in the northern part of Indiana.
Yeah, there's a lot of great talent out here. You look at our 2 players right now, our all-time leading goal scorers, right? You got Axel Valenzuela on the men's side, who just broke the record. This is a local kid who played at John Adams High School, right? And he's playing at Holy Cross College. You have Lauren Cernak, who's now the leading points leader for not only the entire conference but she's in program history. Has broken a record this past weekend for women's soccer at Holy Cross, right? And then you have Olivia Shaw, who's not too far behind, that we're hoping will come back. We'll throw her to come back one more season and break that record. But these girls and guys are right here in front of us and very appreciated. You talked about Chesterton. I mean, we just were able to sign Kate and Donella, and that's a big time signing for us. And just I think kids are starting to see that there's good soccer in the area, right? You don't have to travel too far, and I think that speaks volume of the coaching. The high school coaches are doing a tremendous job. I mean, what Coach Zaber did this year with Penn High School boys, Coach Hart, I mean, it's done a phenomenal job, right? And so they're teaching the game the right way, and that's what I'm appreciative as a college coach, because it makes our jobs a lot easier when they come into college.
We're going to take another quick 90-second timeout, but when we come back, we're going to talk with Omar Gallo about the biggest benefits of playing at the NAIA soccer level. A lot of people think it's either NCAA Division I or not really going anywhere, but we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits of playing both in the CCAC for men's and women's soccer, as well as just in the NAIA in general. So we're going to continue our conversation with Omar Gallo after this quick 90-second timeout. But once again, Tanner Camp here live from Beef O'Brady's for the Coach's Box right here on 91.1 FM The Globe and the Regional Radio Sports Network.
Hey, Dr. Elsperman, I believe one of the best ways to invest in a community is to encourage participation in high school sports.
I agree, Paul. High school sports can play a tremendous role in student athletes obtaining their first degree in life, a high school diploma. Ivy Tech Community College also plays a role by serving more than 70,000 Indiana high school students who are earning college credit while finishing high school.
High school athletics are all about setting students up for success in the classroom and in life, and that's especially important, considering less than 7% of student athletes play sports in college, and even fewer receive scholarships.
At Ivy Tech, thousands of high school students complete their freshman year of college or first industry credential, giving them a head start on college and careers.
We appreciate the support of partners like Ivy Tech who invest in our student athletes, their education, and our communities.
This is championing education. This is investing in your community. This is your IHSAA.
Beef O'Brady's is a locally owned, family-operated restaurant designed for food and sports, featuring appetizers, wraps, pizzas, sandwiches, salads, and wings. Beef O'Brady's also broadcasts televised sporting events. The State Road 23 Granger location has carry-out service and includes a party room and an outside patio. More information is available on their website, beefobradys.com, or by calling 574-271-1415. That's 574-271-1415. Beef O'Brady's. Good food, good sports.
Welcome back here to the Coach's Box here from Beef O'Brady's in Granger, Indiana, off the State Road 23. Again, Tanner Camp here filling in for Paul Condry. He's hanging out over at Bethel. And also don't forget that after this, be sure you go to rrsn.com and tune into some IUSB men's basketball. That's going to be starting here in just a little less than a half hour. Tune into Mike Fleshman, and I'm going to dash my way over there after this broadcast to head over and help him out for the IUSB Titans men's basketball opener. For the Titans, they open up as number 19th in the latest NAIA poll. So again, be sure to check out our website at rrsn.com. And of course, for the Holy Cross men's team next week, they'll be in action as they have their opening round for the CCAC tournament, and we will have that game broadcasted on rrsn.com. So be sure you check out our website and follow on all our socials so you can stay up to date. So let's bring Omar Gallo back in the conversation. And Omar, as someone who's played 4 years at Goshen College and in the NAIA, you know, the dream as a kid for some is always, when you're an athlete, to try to play at those big, your Dukes, your North Carolinas, your Notre Dames, in your respected sport. But I remember first getting to the NAIA, and one thing, at least for me, that drew attention, and because we're on 91.1 The Globe and it covers the Maple Leafs, is that the Crossroads League is one of the most competitive, if not the most competitive conference in all of the NAIA. And the CCAC, nonetheless, you know, you got Olivet Nazarene, you've got Roosevelt, who they're always making some noise, and St. Ambrose out of Iowa, and just the diverse talent in the teams and all the respected sport just shows that the NAIA is still just as competitive. It's not at that NCAA level, but still the NAIA is just as competitive. So what do you think really should draw a student to want to both play athletics and also just be at a school that's in the NAIA?
Well, I think you bring up some good points there, Tanner. I think the main thing for me, it's all about the right fit. I think kids are starting to understand that it doesn't have to be NCAA Division I, Division II, III, JUCO, NAIA. It's about where are you going to fit in. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of factors. I think one of the benefits of NAIA in our school is the small classroom sizes. You know, kids may tend to struggle a little bit more if you're in a classroom with a few hundred people, right? And so I think those factors there. I think there's other things to take in consideration where, you know, if you go to maybe it's very difficult to play at a very top Division I program, right? And you may be a good enough player, but you may sit on the bench for a couple of years, and so you might have the opportunity to play at a smaller school and go in and play your first year or even your second year, right? So many factors are taken into play, but I think the main thing is, it's all about the right fit. I think kids are starting to realize that and recognize that, which is making the competition across the board. I mean, you got junior college teams that are being NCAA teams. You got NAIA teams that are being NCAA teams. And don't get me wrong, you have NCAA teams that will play, NAIA and we'll beat them up pretty bad. I mean, we just played Calvin, which is an NCAA Division III school, a couple weeks ago. What Coach Ryan has done over there over the last several years is tremendous. And it was a very good game for us to see, right? And now I think that opened up a lot of eyes as well as just because of Division III, which, you can say, okay, they don't give athletic scholarships, but very talented program, right? So I think in the end, it's all about the right fit and not getting caught up on the level. And I think coaches are starting to do a much better job of making kids understand that these days.
And when it comes to the Chicagoland Collegiate Athletic Conference, of course, 14 teams, and as we mentioned, a lot of diverse talent. Cardinal Stritch is always competitive. We talked about Olivet Nazarene and St. Ambrose. So when you take a look at the whole landscape of the CCAC, it's got to be nice to be able to compete. The travel is definitely not the easiest thing, especially, and we just talked about that a little bit, having to go to Olivet Nazarene in Illinois twice, and of course, St. Ambrose is the trip that I always say half the battle there is just getting there and showing up to play. But what are you still glad that the Saints are in the CCAC, or do you ever wish that you could try to compete in a different conference?
No, I mean, I value the CCAC. I think it's very competitive. I mean, on the soccer side, at least, I can't speak for any other sports. I do, from what I know basketball is very competitive on the basketball side and the crossroads, but you can say the same in the CCAC. So really, it's just, I mean, will it be nice to drive 5 minutes down the road? Yes, right. But in reality, the CCAC, what I enjoy the most about that is you have 8 teams right now. I always tell our teams, listen, if you can get in the tournament in the CCAC, it's a tremendous accomplishment. And this year we got both the men and the women. If you're able to host, it's a bonus, right? And we're able to do that this year. But I mean, you look at some of the results this year. I mean, you have first place tying the 8th place, right? So from 1 to 8 in the tournament. It can go anyway, and I think that's what I appreciate the most about the CCAC.
And, one of the things I have to also give you credit for, because when we look at your schedule, I mean, the men, they opened up with Bethel, and, of course, Bethel now is a top 10 team. I think I'm just a fan of the non-conference schedule that you guys play, both in the men and the women, because I really do believe that a non-conference schedule gets you ready. We see that with football. We have teams that I know a couple of the Fort Wayne schools are now going to get ready to start playing schools down in Indianapolis, and it just has to get you ready for those conference games because you don't get many of them. And, Calvin, props to them. They really came in, and they've been a real dominant team at their respective division in NCAA D3, of course, with Bethel and Goshen from the Crossroads League. So when it comes to a non-conference opponent, are there any certain things that you look for in an opponent to get your team ready for CCAC play?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, there's 2 ways you can look at it. I mean, first and foremost, we want to put together a schedule that we believe is going to prepare us to compete in our conference, right? And so what we try to focus on is, we look at the Crossroads. We look at the WAC, these schools that are within maybe a couple hours from us that also will play a big part when it gets to the national rankings, right? I mean, when you start getting to national rankings, you guys start thinking about your ARC, you guys start thinking about the at-large bid. And by playing these teams that are technically within your divisions there with the ARC, I mean, you want to try to get as many of those games as you can, and that's where the Crossroads and WAC and CCAC falls into place, right? So, but now anytime, we can get Bethel on the schedule, Tiago's done a tremendous job at Bethel. I mean, we knew when we played them, we had them 1-1.5, and then they just annihilated us the second half, but we knew that, they were going to be a good team this year, and we wanted our guys to see that, and we, sometimes you need to take a step back in order to go forward, and we believe that game prepared us for that.
And then we take a look at, the kind of style, and it definitely is a very kind of aggressive style, really putting pressure that if you don't have a good backline defense, then they're going to really have a troubling time. So just tell us a little bit about who really kind of taught you that style to really, because the key thing is it's both the men and the women. It's not just the men or not just the women. Both teams play that style where the forwards are really aggressive on that backline defense. So just can you kind of tell us a little bit about the origin and why you decided to use that style with this team? And maybe was there a game or any stretch during your time at Holy Cross that really was like that style suits our team well?
Yeah, I think you have to have you have to have the certain players in order to play the aggressive style defensively on how we want to play. Axel is a key contributor to how we want to defend, right? And it's trying to teach these young guys that style. I'm excited because going into next year, we got guys like Juan, Isaac that are starting to finally come around on the defensive side. It's very tough to encourage and motivate a forward to go and focus on defending first, right? Because these guys want to score goals. But when you buy into it and you see the success and are able to win the ball higher up the pitch and able to transition much quicker and get to the goal quicker, you can have success, right? And so I think they're starting to notice that. But I think in regards to where I got that style from, I think it's just, just continuing to educate myself, learning the game a lot more. I think the UEFA licenses has helped me a lot, and learning really the importance of defending from the front. I think as a young coach, and I think many coaches really focus on, my early years, I focus on, okay, I got to work with the back four and work on defending. But reality is, defending starts from the front, right? And our goal is to win the ball higher up the pitch, to get the ball into our attacking players as quickly as possible. Now, there's a risk and reward with that, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and last night's example of that with our women's team, we took a big risk, and unfortunately, we didn't do a good job as a unit defensively. Our guys' team now, on the other hand, have done a great job doing it. But, if you don't do it as a unit, you can get exposed, right? So you have to have the right players in the system. Going back to Axel, we have him back this year, so we're able to do it. Last year, we struggled without him being able to do that, which we conceded a lot more goals than what we've done this year. But we believe we have the guys. The guy that really stands out to me, Kevin's come in and has bought into that. Juan, I think Juan can really come in and do the job that Axel's doing, because he is starting to buy in on it, right? And it's just us as coaches trying to encourage these young guys that, hey, focus on defending first, and trust me, you'll get the goals.
Yeah, let's talk about Axel, because, what makes it great is, I know for me, I had, you have those guys both in high school and college that you just really look up to and sometimes base your game around. I know for me, at least at the NBA professional level, for my game, guys like Tim Duncan, like Dirk Nowitzki, just those guys that were able to just work with people down low and then also have a nice jump shot to really kind of cause some havoc. But I think what makes Axel great, of course, became the career points leader against IU Northwest, which was also when both teams celebrated when you got that 100th victory against Trinity Christian and celebrate. So a big day against IU Northwest. But with Axel, just tell us a little bit about when he first came into the program, just the biggest areas of improvement, because he is a player that not only leads on the field with his scoring, but quite frankly, as you said, with guys like Juan and guys like Kevin, that is someone they can look to and kind of base their game on. And again, Axel, you could tell, and as you mentioned that from last year, because Mike Fleshman and myself were there, that you could tell that his presence, unfortunately, was just not as there as it is this year. So just tell us a little bit about the importance of Axel Valenzuela and the biggest improvements he's made from his first year here to where he's at currently.
Honestly, the number one thing for me is he's learned to keep the game simple. I think early on in his career, he tried to do a little too much. And what I appreciate the most about Axel is, like, he's one of those guys that you can sit there and have a conversation with in your office, be humble with him, be honest with him, and him accept it, and just, like, understand that what we're telling him is going to better him, right? And I think that's where he's grown the most is, one, keeping the game simple, two, listening. It's a massive form of leadership to be able to listen. And I think that's the second part he's really grown, is just to listen. Sometimes these kids come into college, they've done so well in high school that, sometimes they think they know it all, and that's our job as coaches to mold them. And I think that's the other piece where he's grown, is just really able to accept what we're saying, listen, and then go do what we're doing, right? And I think that's where players like Juan, Gabe, Kevin, Isaac, like Harper, these our front 4 or 5 guys look up and respect that, because they're seeing the success he's having by listening and following what we're trying to do. Now, this is on the defensive end, right? And I think on the attacking side, it's our job as coaches to really find the strengths within your players and have them trust that philosophy as well. And I think with Axel, that's the third piece where he's grown, is trusting that, hey, this is how we want to get you the ball. These are the runs we want you to make, and he stuck to it.
And another player that we have to talk about, and we already did a little bit beforehand, but we got to talk about Kamoy Curry, a guy that I always just enjoy getting a chance to talk to beforehand. He always makes time to say something before the match, along with Claudio and Martin. And that's my favorite part of the broadcast, when they come over before the match to tell us good luck, because they're just such great kids who are going to do great things even outside of soccer. But going back to Kamoy, he's definitely the player that, not is he great, he's great on the field, but he's the one that when something happens or adversity strikes, he's the one that gathers the team together. When it comes to Kamoy, how did you kind of know that he would be in that leadership role? Because he really, as we see him with always as one of the captains, how did you kind of know that Kamoy would end up being one of your captains and just arguably one of your most important guys on the team?
Kamoy, have to say, when we're looking at our entire roster, and we're talking about development of players and the person, the name that stands out for me is Kamoy Carreri. It's funny. I mean, there's just talk just about our culture and the laugh we have with the guys, and we talk about. We mentioned being too casual, and we would always say that to Kamoy in his early years, and he'd get frustrated and angry. And I knew when you see those kind of reactions from certain players, they're not necessarily angry or mad at you as a coach, or they understand what it takes to have success, and he's competitive and he wants to win and he's willing to put himself first. He's grown so much as a person, as a leader. He's vocal on the pitch, and from a playing standpoint, I can't remember the last time we told him he was being too casual, right? So I mean, honestly, he's developed so much. He's a leader in the back line. He organizes everything. I mean, really, he's really stepped up for us. And similar to what we said earlier on in the show to Olivia, we're going to give Kamoy a shout out to see if he will stay one more season. But no, he's without Kamoy, we're not the best defensive team in the conference, which is where we're at this season.
Again, Omar Gallo here, joining us here on the Coach's Box. Again, with his men's overall record, 102 wins, 78 losses, and 22 ties. And for the women, 38 wins, 34 ties, and 13 ties, with, again, the 34 loss. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the women's team. And we'll talk about Olivia Shaw, we'll talk about Taylor Primack, Lauren Cernak, and just talk about getting ready for postseason play next week. But once again, Omar Gallo, our special guest, the head coach for the men's and women's soccer teams over at Holy Cross. Once again, my name is Tanner Kempen. You're listening to the Coach's Box right here on 91.1 FM The Globe and the Regional Radio Sports Network. Back after this quick 90-second timeout.
What separates high school sports from other athletic programs? We keep education in front of athletics. I'm Paul Knighty, Commissioner of the IHSAA, and I'm thrilled to introduce our new Assistant Commissioner, Janie Elmer, because I know she shares the same passion for education-based athletics.
That's right, Paul. As a former principal, teacher, and Hoosier student athlete myself, I understand firsthand how high school sports provide a complete educational experience for students.
The real benefit of playing in the second classroom of high school sports isn't just about teams becoming better athletes.
It's about them becoming better people, building character and developing the habits they need to be successful adults in life. Accountability, teamwork, respect, perseverance. These are just some of the life lessons learned on the playing field.
It's good to have another passionate advocate for education-based athletics on the team. Welcome aboard, Assistant Commissioner Elmer.
This is the second classroom. This is education-based athletics. This is your IHSAA.
Beef O'Brady's is a locally owned, family-operated restaurant designed for food and sports, featuring appetizers, wraps, pizzas, sandwiches, salads, and wings. Beef O'Brady's also broadcasts televised sporting events. The State Road 23 Granger location has carry-out service and includes a party room and an outside patio. More information is available on their website, beefobradys.com, or by calling 574-271-1415. That's 574-271-1415. Beef O'Brady's. Good food, good sports.
Back here at Beef O'Brady's, here for the Coach's Box, here on the Regional Radio Sports Network and on 91.1 FM The Globe, WGCS Goshen, and again, tuning in on globeradio.org. As always, great to be here on 91.1 FM The Globe, my alma mater, and where I graduated from in 2020. And we'll talk a little bit more about the broadcast happening tomorrow here on 91.1 FM The Globe. But we want to continue our conversation with Omar Gallo. We got a chance to talk about the men's soccer team, who, of course, in the regular season, absolutely spectacular record with 9-4-4, very respectable, and one of the top teams in the CCAC. But now it's time to flip things over for the women's side of things at 6-5-7 and 5-5-3. And the CCAC still able to just squeak in, and will play next Saturday in the conference tournament. So, Coach, let's talk about the women's soccer team. Last year, absolutely great success. Of course, I still to this day think about the Cardinal Stritch match in PKs and remember tuning in. And that just proved right there that at full strength, this team was going to just be able to jump right back in with Taylor in goal, Lauren Cernak coming back, and Olivia Shaw, one of the best Saints to come through. And then, unfortunately, the key thing was just the injuries. But luckily, there has been both good and bad with that. On one hand, you want to put your 11 that you want on the field, but on the other hand, it does give some of those younger players, those freshmen who maybe weren't expecting to get those minutes. 6-5-7 for not having your full 11 out there, that's got to still be pretty impressive in your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, the only time we had our I would say the lineup that we probably thought we were going to go with the entire season was in a preseason match against Grace. That was back, I think, August 9th, and they played together for maybe 40-something minutes and looked absolutely amazing. But things happen, and you're throwing a couple curveballs, and that's your job as a coach to improvise. And I think you said it right. It's given us an opportunity to see a lot of our young players, and I got to give credit to not only the young players but everybody else. I mean, we've had 9 girls out this year. Out of 24 girls, it's a lot, right? And the fact that they're able to get in the tournament is tremendous, and I think a lot of it has to do with the culture that I'm not going to say it's 1 or 2 girls that have really implemented the culture here, but I'm going to give a shout out to like that 2019 class that have come in, really laid the foundation for us, and sure enough, they've been rewarded with getting into the tournament for the 4th year in a row, which is unbelievable for them. And what I appreciate the most about them is, now you have the 2020, the 2021 class. I mean, these girls are starting to follow suit now, right? And the freshman group that came in, the sophomore group that came in, I mean, they're looking up to these juniors and seniors, right? And so, it's been a roller coaster of a season. As a coach, I'd say this has probably been the least amount of sleep in my 5 years coaching the women's program I've had. But, honestly, it's been a year where I've really not had to focus on rules and setting guidelines or any of that stuff, and that's because the culture has been tremendous, and the belief, the trust in each other, next woman up mentality has really allowed us to have the success we've had. And so it's we can look back and say, oh, the ball bounced this way, we would have finished here, but reality is, I mean, the girls are in the tournament. It's a new season once Monday comes, and anything can happen, and I honestly believe that we have a group here. I'm not going to call it an upset because I don't think it will be an upset. I just have a very good feeling that these girls will give all of it a go and a run for their money, and whatever the outcome is, regardless, I'm proud of them.
And let's talk about that because, of course, this is a school that's only been in the NAI. I mean, at homecoming weekend, they celebrated 15 years. So to have the success for the men and then have the success for the women, then for those who don't know, again, only the 5th official season, and they've already come out of the gates and really put their name on the CCA and even starting to get national recognition. So just tell us a little bit about how that kind of came to fruition for you to be the women's coach, because, again, that's also handling with men's soccer responsibilities, and not many coaches can handle that. So just tell us a little bit about how it came about to being able to coach the women's team as well.
Well, first and foremost, I had to get permission from my wife. Right? Coming home and telling her, hey, I think I'm going to take another collegiate soccer program on wasn't the best conversation. So no, I have to give a shout out to her. I mean, she's been so supportive, not only for me as a coach, but for the girls as well. I mean, she's acted as a second mom to all these girls and the boys team, right? But more importantly, the women's team, they come over, they hang out with her, they do their nails, whatever they got to do. But she's been very supportive. So obviously, the success is because of my wife supporting us on that. I think, how it came about. I mean, the position just opened up. I was doing something else in the college, and there's a lot of turnaround the previous seasons with different coaches coming in, and I think what the girls needed was just stability, and someone to believe in them. And that 2018 we took over, we had a couple girls in that program like Bella, Marika, a couple other girls, Brooke, Riley, Jade. These girls wanted to compete, and I saw that. And what happened was I ran a couple practices for them. I saw that grit mentality in some of these girls, and I just saw they just wanted more. And we trained them for about a month, and it was going well. And went home, and wife blessed me with my decision, and sure enough took over. And it's been a heck of a ride. From 2019, which was our first class, to now, it's been an unbelievable experience, and not an experience that I regret, and just looking forward to not only this postseason run, but next year as well with another great class coming in.
And we talk about some of the first, because as you said, we obviously got to give a shout out to those previous players, and let's also give for those seniors, Nicole Cook, Kathleen Main, Lauren Cernaka, Olivia Shaw, the upperclassmen. But as we talked a little bit about, and to give a couple other specific names, it's been some of the freshmen and sophomores that, again, probably didn't think they were going to get any minutes. And the two in particular, at least that jump off the page to me, are Ashlyn and Abby Craig. I think those two have definitely jumped off the page, along with all the other freshmen as well. But again, you have to be impressed with basically telling them, hey, we've got these injuries, pretty much getting thrown into the fire into a competitive CCAC. What has been the biggest thing that you've been most impressed with, whether it's an improvement or whether it's just being able to handle that adversity? Because being thrown in the fire like that for some is not exactly something every player can handle.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Twins. They've had a great season. I mean, not many people know, but Abby's coming off a 15-month injury, right? And so for her to be able to play as much as she has is amazing. I mean, Ashlyn has played every minute of every game this season. I mean, you can't ask for a freshman to do any more than that. I mean, yeah, Hannah, playing our six, and Mia, dealing with injuries, but is giving everything we have. And then, you have your sophomore class. I mean, we've had to switch positions with some of the girls, right? I mean, Yami, Abby Padilla's having to play. I mean, these girls have really stepped up for us. But I think, what I appreciate the most, and this goes back to our girls just laying the foundation here, is that these freshmen, sophomore, underclassmen girls are not shy to speak up. They come in understanding what it takes to win. They have a grit mentality. They're all determined on and off the field, academically, in the community, athletically. And the number one thing for our program right now is having the courage to act and speak up. And that's what we've been stressing. And every player on the team, regardless of what class you are, has been able to do that.
And as you had kind of mentioned with those players, and, I kind of look back on Alumni Day, and, it was really great to see with the wins for the men and the women, or at least for those close competitive games. I think the greatest part was just seeing those former players, and in your case, for some of seeing those former players, as you said, the two words that I associate with it are foundation and recognizing those alumni who really helped start it, and then culture, which is, again, you can just feel the different kind of culture change just when you step on campus. So when it comes to Alumni Day, and I can tell that always really, at least the 2 seasons that I've been working with the Saints, that Alumni Day is really something special for you. So just tell us a little bit about what makes that homecoming weekend, when it's for the Saints and honoring the alumni, why is it so special to you to kind of honor those past players?
I think, everyone will ask, how's your recruiting class this year? What do you guys, how do you think these guys are going to come in? These girls are going to come in, and what are they going to do for you? And I always say, ask me 5 years after they graduate, and when they come back, with as many as have come back, excuse me, I think we've had about 40, 50 that came back this year from all over the world. We have players flying from Scotland and all over. And I cherish those moments as a coach, because having the opportunity to still be around and see what they're doing with their lives, that's our championship as coaches. And that's for me priority. I mean, we talk about, yes, we want to win conference championship and title, and it's very difficult to do that. And so we have to make sure that we're focusing on who are these kids going to become after they leave Holy Cross. And so when they come back and seeing them, and it just solidifies things that, we're doing things the right way. It may not look that way at times, because they are college students. They're going to make mistakes. They're freshmen, sophomore, juniors. But when you see who they become, and they become fathers, mothers, and they're married, I mean, that to me, that's what it's all about. So I'm very blessed, appreciative, and I cherish those moments when they come back every year.
And then, Coach, of course, as you get ready for next week, you got the men's match next Friday, which, again, we will have on the Regional Radio Sports Network. So tune in and go to rrsn.com, and we will have that match. As of right now, I think we're thinking that 3 o'clock, so 2:45 p.m. Eastern Time is when we're going to start. So, again, check out the website. So for the men's match as they host, as we find out who it is. And then, of course, on Saturday, the women will travel, again, most likely to Olivet Nazarene for that match. What are going to be, you get essentially a whole week to get ready. What are going to be some of the biggest things that you're going to have both teams focus on to get themselves ready for their respected match next week?
Yeah, first and foremost, there's going to be a lot of film watching. Our coaching staff will probably will watch however amount of games. We'll have our players watch a lot of film. And then we'll plan accordingly, tactically. We'll look back and look at our reports from when we played these teams, whoever we're going to play. And then, it's the time where you continue to work on your PKs. I mean, hopefully. I mean, been through too many PKs in the last 2 years on the women's side, but you got to prepare them and just getting a lot of repetition in. And I think just setting the mood as a coach for your players to kind of just make sure, hey, just relax, just another game, continue to focus on the culture building, maybe get out, maybe one of these nights here leading up to the game, have a team dinner. Just it's important that you don't want to put too much pressure on these kids. You want them to embrace and enjoy the moment because it's not often you get into the tournament. And we've been lucky enough to have both programs in the tournament this year, which is doesn't really happen that often. So we're going to enjoy the moment, but obviously make sure that we're putting in the work as a staff and as the players.
102 wins for the men's side and 38 wins for the women's side for a total of 140 wins during his time with the Holy Cross men's and women's respected soccer teams. Again, Omar Gallo, the head coach for the Holy Cross men's and women's soccer teams. And, Coach, thank you so much for coming out to the show. We wish you absolutely nothing but the best for a good recovery and for the players, both after soccer and then in terms of next Friday with that men's matchup. Coach, thank you for your time and best of luck to the players as they get ready for next week.
Thank you, Tanner. We appreciate all you guys do for us. You guys do a tremendous job.
We'll be back after this quick 2-minute timeout, and when we come back, we'll take a look around what's going on in the Regional Radio Sports Network and what's going on as we got high school football going on tomorrow, as well as many other different games. So don't tune off just yet, as we're going to take a look one more time after this 2-minute timeout. We'll take one more look around the state and then say farewell from Beef O'Brady's. But once again, Tanner Camp here. Thank you to Omar Gallo for his time here on the Coach's Box. Back after this 2-minute timeout right here on 91.1 FM The Globe and the Regional Radio Sports Network.
I love that high school sports are about so much more than winning.
I couldn't agree more. While the immediate goal might be to win a game or championship, the real purpose of high school sports is to develop good people, not just good athletes. I'm Robert Falcons, a proud South Bend LaSalle Lion.
And I'm Carrie Rosati, a proud Roncalli Royal. We're both assistant commissioners of the Indiana High School Athletic Association.
In education-based athletics, we care just as much about how student athletes are performing in the classroom as we do about how they're performing on the playing field.
That's because high school sports are a tool to build the character of student athletes, not just their athletic skills.
Developing the whole person rather than just the athlete. That's what high school sports in Indiana are all about.
Support the real purpose of education-based athletics by buying a ticket to your high school's athletic events.
This is training good athletes. This is developing better people. This is your IHSAA.
What separates high school sports from other athletic programs? We keep education in front of athletics. I'm Paul Knighty, Commissioner of the IHSAA, and I'm thrilled to introduce our new Assistant Commissioner, Janie Elmer, because I know she shares the same passion for education-based athletics.
That's right, Paul. As a former principal, teacher, and Hoosier student athlete myself, I understand firsthand how high school sports provide a complete educational experience for students.
The real benefit of playing in the second classroom of high school sports isn't just about teams becoming better athletes.
It's about them becoming better people, building character and developing the habits they need to be successful adults in life. Accountability, teamwork, respect, perseverance. These are just some of the life lessons learned on the playing field.
It's good to have another passionate advocate for education-based athletics on the team. Welcome aboard, Assistant Commissioner Elmer.
This is the second classroom. This is education-based athletics. This is your IHSAA.
Welcome back here to the Coach's Box here from Beef O'Brady's in Granger, Indiana. My name's Tanner Camp. Once again, huge shout out to Omar Gallo for taking time to come out here and join us on the Coach's Box. Again, the 11th year head coach for the men's team, an overall record of 102 wins, 78 losses, and 22 ties, and 66 wins, 52 losses, and 17 in the Chicagoland Collegiate Athletic Conference. And in his 5th year with the women's coach, a total of 38 wins, 34 losses, and 13 ties, and in the Chicagoland Collegiate Athletic Conference, 26 wins, 28 losses, and 5 ties. So overall record of 140, 112, and 35 ties. So we're going to take a look around what's going on here for the remainder of this week. And more to come, of course, tonight. Be sure that you tune in and go to rrsn.com as the IU South Bend Titans men's basketball team is live and on the air on our website as they take on the Manchester Spartans in their home opener for the 19th ranked Indiana University South Bend Titans men's basketball team. Mike Fleshman currently on the air, and I'm going to be dashing on over there as soon as we wrap things up here from Beef O'Brady. So again, tune in. I know Paul Condry's over at Bethel. I believe they've finished up their the Bethel women's mat game between the Cornerstone Golden Eagles, and of course, in just a couple minutes here, they're going to be on the air as the Bethel men's basketball team is going to be at home and taking on the Calumet College of St. Joseph Crimson Wave. So tune into BUPilots.com, and you can tune in to that game over going on at the Gates Gymnasium. And let's take a look at what else is going on around the Hoosier State. Of course, the big one for tomorrow, it's sectional semifinals time, as we've got 3 games that are going to be broadcasted. We got Valparaiso, Bill Marshall's team, as they travel to LaPorte to take on Bob James and the LaPorte Slicers. That's Paul Condry's crew. It's going to be Paul Condry, Frank Kiplikowski, and Hank Highlander as they are going over to LaPorte. So be sure you can tune into that on 95.9 WeFM. And you can tune in on the Regional Radio Sports Network and IHSAATV.org. And that is scheduled for a 7 p.m. Eastern Time start, so a 6 p.m. over in the Central Time Zone. Right here on 91.1 FM The Globe, you want to talk about a good game. This is going to probably be one of the best games in the whole state of Indiana. It's the Carroll Fort Wayne Chargers, 9-0 overall, and they travel to Penn High School to take on the Kingsmen at 7-2. Again, a very good Penn team going against a very good Carroll team, so that is going to be a game you are not going to want to miss. And guess what? You can tune in right here on 91.1 FM The Globe on WGCS, as it's Mike Fleshman, Matt Copsey, and of course, one of the most legendary coaches in all of Indiana high school football, Chris Giesman, are going to be over at TCU's Freed Field, so you can tune in. That'll be a 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern start time right here again on 91.1 FM The Globe and globeradio.org, and also on IHSAATV.org. And our other game, another really good one, probably one of the best games in all of 4A. It's the New Prairie Cougars under the direction of Casey McKibben. They travel over to the Inferno to take on Keith Kilmer and the Lowell Red Devils. Todd Kibbe, Tony McHale, and Vince Gray are on the call for that game, and that is scheduled for a 7:15 Eastern start time and a 6:15 Central start time over from the Inferno. You can tune into that one exclusively on RRSN.com video and on IHSAATV.org. While those guys are heading out to football, I'm going over to Bethel tomorrow as the Bethel University Pilots volleyball team is taking on the Huntington Forcers in a very key matchup in terms of Crossroads League standing. So be sure that you tune into that on BUPilots.com as well. And then, of course, you think we're done there. We are just getting started, as we'll take a look at more broadcasts. But other games that are going on in the local area for football, of course, another good one in 6A, as the Elkhart Lions travel to Warsaw to take on Bart Curtis's Tigers. The Concord Minutemen are traveling over to take on Goshen. South Bend Adams is heading over to Mishawaka for a matchup with the Cavemen. The Logansport Berries taking on the Class 4A state runner-up Northridge Raiders. The undefeated Northwood Panthers travel to South Bend as they take on the St. Joseph Indians. The Jimtown Jimmies travel over to John Glenn for a matchup against John Barron's Falcons. The Andrean 59ers, the defending 2A state champion after having the bye week last week, they have another great match and maybe one of the best in the entire state in 2A. They travel to LaVille for a matchup with the Lancers. And then the Bremen Lions are traveling over to Lake Station for another matchup there. And then in terms of other big-time games going on in the state, is the 2-time 6A state runner-up Westfield Shamrocks, and they travel to Carmel for a matchup with the Greyhounds. How about this one right here? The Brownsburg Bulldogs, they are at Ben Davis against the Giants, another really good match between two 6A powerhouses. Then moving down to 5A, the Fort Wayne Snyder Panthers. You can actually read the new article on the Colts website for talking about one of the players. And Fort Wayne Snyder takes on Fort Wayne Bishop Dwenger against the Saints. Mooresville is also traveling to Brebeuf Jesuit. And then a battle of two really strong teams and favorites in their respective class, as it's Gibson Southern traveling to Owen Valley. So a lot of really good games going on in high school football. And again, we got 3 of them that you can tune into on RRSN.com. You can tune into Valpo at LaPorte on WeFM 95.9. You can tune in to Fort Wayne Carroll at Penn right here on 91.1 FM The Globe. And you can tune into New Prairie at Lowell on RRSN.com video. And all those games will also be available on IHSAATV.org. And then looking at tomorrow, we've got a couple basketball games for you. Actually, we got some volleyball, too. We've got Rockford at IU South Bend for men's basketball, as it's Mike Fleshman, Ron Hecklinski, the former coach over at Mishawaka, and myself that are going to be hanging out with Scott Cooper and the 19th-ranked Titans. We've also got some women's basketball, as the Indiana University South Bend Titans and the receiving votes for women's basketball travel to Bethel to take on the Pilots, and that will be a noon start time. Paul Condry will be on the call. for that game. And then we're also going to have some volleyball as the Goshen Maple Leafs are going to travel over to Bethel for a Crossroads League matchup. And that's the final day for Crossroads League volleyball before we get the postseason started. So as always, check out our website at rrsn.com for all games that are going to be happening throughout the course of the week. That's going to do it here from the Coaches Box. We thank you as always for tuning in here every Thursday evening as we chat with coaches of all different sports from all over this part of Indiana. We thank you as always for your great support, and always a huge shout out to 91.1 FM The Globe, and of course sports director and just overall super talented guy in Dante Stan for his great work, and Jason Samuel as always for the tremendous job in keeping the absolute great legacy of 91.1 The Globe alive, and nothing but trophies filling the shelves. Again, that's going to do it here for our coverage of the Coaches Box from Beef O'Brady's here in Granger, Indiana. Again, check out our website at rrsn.com for all upcoming games, and also tune into globeradio.org if you want to be able to take that great Globe music if you're not near a radio. From all of us at the Regional Radio Sports Network, for Dante Stan and everyone over at 91.1 FM The Globe, my name is Tanner Camp saying thank you so much for tuning in to the Coaches Box. Swing things back over to Dante for that culturally progressive music over on 91.1 FM The Globe and the Regional Radio Sports Network. Have a great rest of your night, and so long from Beef O'Brady's.